What's up, guys? It's Cloud here. I'm not usually one to ever comment on sports, but after watching the Ravens-Titans AFC division game just now, this is right after the game analysis kind of thing on the MVP of the season, Lamar Jackson's performance, in addition to like the Ravens as a general thing. But there's not going to be any stats brought out from the actual Ravens. Besides the fact that they had over 500 yards in the game, and were only able to produce 12 points with 6 drop passes, 7 by the end of the game. Unfortunately, the game didn't turn out the way that I had hoped, not because I'm a Ravens fan or anything, but because I just, Lamar Jackson made me cheer for the Ravens, because he, in all of his interviews and everything, is a classy stand-up player who always just has his mind on the game and never really gets involved with too much like outside stuff. So there's a lot of respect there. So I was really hoping to see him go far this postseason. Unfortunately, that's not what we saw happen. As I mentioned, the Titans won 28-12 here tonight. But what I will say is that I think Lamar Jackson's performance tonight, minus the interceptions that he threw, obviously that's something that you can't really overlook. He threw 2 interceptions and had the fumble. But other than that, his performance was like a career highlight. And now a lot of you may be like, hey, they got destroyed, whatever, they didn't play like the Ravens that we saw in the regular season. All that's true. However, I would have to say, based on what I saw from Lamar Jackson as an individual, it was not so much Lamar Jackson's fault, nor was it any specific Ravens' fault by any means. I mean, Derrick Henry, all the props to him, was an unstoppable force for the first half and third quarter. They only found out how to stop him really consistently by like 5 minutes left in the fourth. So he really carried the Titans by far. Like, if there was one player that I would give props to on the Titans, it's Derrick Henry alone. Tannehill didn't really do anything impressive. None of the Titans really did anything that impressive besides Crookshank on defense. He was impressive with his breaking up of completed passes, stuff like that. So those two. But otherwise, the Titans didn't impress me in terms of individuals besides Derrick Henry. The Titans as a team, led by Mike Vrabel, were very impressive tonight, playing the number 1 seed, the Ravens, who many people thought would not be able to be stopped, including myself. But back to Lamar Jackson, I will say, it wasn't really much his fault at all, considering that the reason I would say that this is a career highlight game is the man, known for not really passing, threw 365 yards with an average completion of 52.5%. Okay, and so he went 31 of 59 tonight. So he threw almost 60 times when in his entire career at home he's only thrown 197 times. So a third of his at-home throws were done tonight, which is not something anyone thought we would see from the Ravens, especially in a game like this. But the Titans' defense did a great job of shutting down his rushing. However, even with those pass yards of 365, if you go over and look at the rushing stats, he ran and rushed for 143 yards tonight. Okay? With another average yards per run of 7.2, while his career average of this, or the season average was 6.9. So he had an above average rushing game once he got that turned on. And his passing game was nothing to sneeze at. He was up there with like Patrick Mahomes level yard gain on passes. He would have gone over 400 yards without a question in pass yards had he not had 6, 7 drop passes. And Mark Ingram being hurt, not being at 100%, definitely hurt the Ravens tonight without a question. He had to take a step out and heal up before the second half, and he just wasn't impressing me compared to how he has the rest of the season. Not to put Mark Ingram down at all, because what a fantastic player he is, and even tonight he showed us that he can play through the pain. True grit there. But I will say that out of all the players on the Ravens, Lamar Jackson is least at fault because, I mean, even with the turnovers and everything, the man produced yard gain. The man produced plays. When there were times when, as people will call it, the rust from having the bye week and everything, was making them draw unnecessary flags, such as in the fourth quarter, later in the fourth when they drew the jump at the line of scrimmage that cost them 5 yards and made it second and 15, and then incomplete pass there made it third and 15, and then Lamar Jackson runs the ball for 25 yards right there when it looks like he's not going to be able to do anything. The man was making nothing or something out of nothing repeatedly throughout the second half, mainly. Because when I started the game early tonight, I was like, man, Lamar Jackson's having the worst game of his career. I can't believe what I'm seeing. This is crazy from the team that should be winning the entire league, like the Super Bowl. But as the game progressed, Lamar Jackson mainly and importantly kept his head up. You could tell he was like visibly aggravated, but even then he kept his head up and continued playing. And I mean, he pulled off crazy gains, had stats-wise a great game besides the interceptions. So, I mean, when you factor in the interceptions and the fumble, that's going to make his QBR drop, all that, whatever. That doesn't matter. From my eyes, even though he threw those interceptions and the fumble, he still had a career highlight game, win or lose. I mean, no one, even when I was watching on CBS, the stats line said Lamar Jackson is the first player in postseason history to throw for over 300 yards and rush for over 100 yards in the same game. And that just really highlights how good of a player he is. And it's really unfortunate that the Ravens fell apart at a time like this. But even if they won tonight, after watching them play tonight, I don't think they could have beaten the 49ers, who I will congratulate right now for winning the 2020-2019 season Super Bowl. Because there's no team now that can beat the 49ers, realistically. I will be shocked if they get beaten by the Seahawks or Packers, because the Packers are overrated for a 2 seed. And then the Seahawks barely lost, I guess last time is an argument you could make, but they've lost both times, if I'm not mistaken, to the 49ers. Or no, I think they won earlier in the season. But either way, I'm not here to talk about those teams, so that's why I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me with that. I'm not like a sports talk show here, and I'm doing this right on the spur of the moment right after the game, so you have to forgive my lack of knowledge on some of the earlier season games of what happened, because I've mainly been following the Ravens and the Chiefs. And so that's where my next point will be. The Chiefs will come the closest, I think, to beating the 49ers now that the Ravens are out. I don't see the Chiefs losing to the Texans, but after tonight's game, anything's possible. I don't see the Texans beating the Titans if they beat the Chiefs. I guess I can see the Titans now beating the Chiefs, but honestly, perhaps not, because Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, all different players than who are on the Ravens. This was the best possible matchup for the Titans, in my opinion, because they had someone who could outrush the Ravens, and their defense was locking it down tonight. Patrick Mahomes, whole nother ballgame. Basically the polar opposite of Lamar Jackson in terms of being a dedicated passer, even though that's not what we saw tonight, where Lamar Jackson was passing almost every play. Generally speaking, Patrick Mahomes is a dedicated pass quarterback as opposed to a rushing quarterback like Lamar Jackson has been through the season. And I think that had the lanes been open, Lamar Jackson would have been rushing much, much more. But he was able to acknowledge the fact that there wasn't going to be lanes open, and he would be unproductive unless he switched it up and started passing and then sneaking a rush in here and there, and that was very effective for his own personal yard gain and his own stat line, I will say. I was impressed by that, but I don't see the Titans beating the Chiefs is the baseline, and I don't see the Chiefs beating the 49ers. So that is why I stated congratulations to the San Francisco 49ers for winning the 2019 Super Bowl, because that's most likely what's going to happen. But once again, after being on Twitter and everything and looking at all of the people surprised by the Ravens' loss, I mean, everyone's bracket who doesn't have the ability of like foresight or whatever, everyone's bracket shot. Just betting on this game alone, if you took the over/under, you're fucking, pardon my language, you're just shot there too. Nothing. You can't. I mean, what? Like, no one saw this coming. I don't know what to say besides that. I can't believe it. I mean, I know I had a friend of mine who had hoped for the Ravens' loss tonight because he had bet on Tannehill's stat line. But once again, I think that even with the bet that he placed, I don't think he won because Tannehill wasn't impressive tonight. It was all Derrick Henry. He was the entire offense. I mean, 74% of it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say really about that besides the fact that, like, Lamar Jackson had an all-time game tonight. Like him or not, after this performance by the Ravens as a team, Lamar Jackson himself had an all-time performance. Well-deserved MVP. Do I think that this should have happened tonight? No, but I mean, you can't really do anything about it. I mean, sometimes teams get rusty, whatever. I don't appreciate people calling them frauds or whatever just because they beat your team every game almost. I mean, they lost to the Browns early in the season, but Lamar Jackson was injured, I believe, so I don't know if that really shows anything, but I think it really showed tonight that Lamar Jackson is responsible for almost all of the production on offense by the Ravens, with the help of Mark Ingram when he's healthy. Hayden Hurst, good player as well. Only person to receive a touchdown on Baltimore's end tonight, and overall been a solid player through the season. Not really, I mean, like I said, I'm not really here to put the Ravens down or anything. I'm not going to just start calling out players by name unless I have something positive to say about them. So, that's just how it is. But I think that overall, yes, the scoreboard could have looked better, but, as the commentators were saying on CBS as well, I'll quote them directly here. Once the smoke clears, the Ravens will have okay stats coming out of tonight's game. And I really thought the Titans were outplaying the Ravens, but it turns out that the Titans just won off of a bunch of flukes. And didn't really have the actual skill to win the game. The only reason they won was because of all the turnovers, and they had the ball most of the game, because I'll tell you, their offensive production, even with Derrick Henry, the Ravens not outrushed, but definitely outpassed them. And overall yardage gain was almost double on the Ravens' end. Their offensive production of yard gain outplayed the Titans by far, even with their defense on rushing. So the Ravens just had a weird night. That's all I can really say. So I guess I'll kind of leave it there with that, and those are just my thoughts coming out of the AFC division game. I just, final thoughts on it and summary, I guess, is, once again, Lamar Jackson had an all-time game tonight. 365 pass yards, 143 rush yards, 52.5% completion, 2 interceptions thrown, 1 fumble, 1 touchdown pass, several rushes for above 25 yards, a rush for above 20 yards, several rushes for above 10 yards, multiple passes completed for over 10-yard gain, all those basic stats. But yeah, I mean, not much else to say about that besides, I doubt Lamar Jackson will see this. And I definitely doubt he'll get to the end of this video if he sees it. But if he does, by small chance, see this, I hope he doesn't put himself down too much about tonight's game, because it's not at all his fault. There was a lot of mistakes made, a lot of dropped passes, and Lamar Jackson was throwing bullets out there. I was very impressed, and he proved to the entire league, I think, that he can both pass and rush, since many people only saw him as a rushing quarterback. So I don't even think comparing him to Michael Vick anymore is fair, because he has far surpassed that level of player. And as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy, I definitely think he'll be a Hall of Famer. It's going to be really, really hard for him to pass Tom Brady in pure stats of Super Bowls won, since that's what everyone wants to base their best player of all time off of, is how many Super Bowls you've won. But, I mean, me personally, my GOAT, if you will, the best player in the NFL, quarterback anyway, Joe Montana. I'm not going to get into why, besides the fact that I don't respect the Patriots as an organization. I respect Tom Brady as a player. I think that he's a very talented and gifted quarterback, and the ability to play into the 40s of your life is very impressive as well. I just don't think that it's fair to get... He only has 2 more rings than Joe Montana, and Joe Montana won in an organization that was legitimate, as opposed to the Patriots, who, and also, you know, besides that even, Tom Brady's played with the Patriots for over 20 years now, just about 20 years anyway, and won 6 Super Bowls. Joe Montana played with the 49ers for, we'll say, about 10 to 15, won 4 Super Bowls, so the average could have gone either way, but, you know, Joe Montana got hurt, and we know all that history there, so we're not going to talk about what could have happened with Joe Montana, and if he could have won more than 6 Super Bowls, though that would be a fun topic to discuss. I think he probably could have, but that's my GOAT, Joe Montana, in the quarterback position. The Joe Montana-Jerry Rice duo was lethal. So yeah, I mean, that's just really all that I had to say in the video. I just wanted to do a quick report on my opinion on Lamar Jackson's performance tonight and the Ravens overall. I don't think this was a deserved loss, but the way they played kind of solicited the fact that they would lose. I disagree with it was just a lot of crucial things. Not getting the 4th down conversions. Do I think they should have tried to convert 4th down early? No. Do I think they should have tried to convert the 4th down that would have given them 9 instead of 0? No. They should have kicked that and got the field goal. That was in the 3rd quarter. Not that it would have changed the outcome based on what we saw, but maybe that would have given them a little more electricity had the score been 28-16 and it was less than a 2-touchdown game as opposed to a 2-touchdown and both completed conversions to tie the game scenario. So, that's all I got to say. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry there's no picture up. This is just kind of more of a podcast sort of video, a discussion, if you will. There's no content here, and like I said, I never really talk about sports. I don't have any sports backdrops set up. But if you guys enjoyed this, if you guys enjoyed hearing me talk about something I frankly enjoy talking about, but, you know, I'm still learning about here and there. Obviously, as you heard, I wasn't able to pull out the stat lines immediately out of my head for every team in the playoffs currently, and I was really only able to focus on, like, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, had I planned this video ahead of time, not to make excuses, but had I actually planned the video ahead of time where it would be like, I'll do a video tomorrow reviewing the Ravens' performance after I've had time to prepare, as opposed to immediately after the game ends, I'd have a lot more professionalism, I think, and stats produced, because I'd actually have done the research and written them down. But this is like an immediate response, like a knee-jerk response, if you will, video, but just looking directly at the Lamar Jackson stats of the game. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. I think it was a very proper game played by him, and I think he did about all he could and left it out on the field. even in the final minutes of the game. So much respect to him. I look forward to seeing his post-game interview and see what he has to say, and see what, Stephen A., Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless, they all have to say tomorrow. Or Monday, I think it is Monday. But, so this is my reaction to the Ravens-Titans AFC game of 2019's season, but officially occurring in 2020. Thanks for listening.